The thoughts and opinions expressed are those of the sponsors and don't necessarily reflect those of this station or iHeartMedia.
It's time to have the Real Convo, a show that brings hope and awareness to those affected by suicide and mental health. As someone who is affected by both, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Southeast Florida board member Alan Mednick breaks the stigma with his mission that no one ever feels alone. With the help of influential guests in the community, the Real Convo starts now.
Welcome back to Real Convo. This is Alan Mednick, Southeast Florida board member for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And again, this show is based on mental health and suicide prevention and how to get help. First of all, I just want to thank again our sponsors. We have Beacon Restoration, business services for you. And today, our special guest we have is Clarity Health Solutions. Today, we have Jennifer Hoskins-Tomko, LCSW from Clarity Health Solutions. She's in Jupiter. She's offering the therapist perspective on getting help. And I want to welcome you today, Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Alan. I'm so excited.
I'm really excited about this. And there's a lot of things that I have going through my head right now. Again, with my son being having anxiety and depression, we went through a lot of different type of situations on how to get help. And truthfully, we didn't know where to turn at first. So one of the things, you're a psychotherapist, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So if you could just tell, what is a psychotherapist? How does it differ from regular therapy? So
a psychotherapist should be a master's level clinician. So several things fall under that category, like a licensed mental health counselor, licensed family and marriage counselor, and then a master's in social work. And I am a social worker, but some of the terminology around social work is a little bit, there's a stigma attached to that. Like people expect me to be coming in a pair of clogs with, into people's houses and taking babies and stuff. And I don't like that idealization of what a social worker is. So I just did with psychotherapists. And yeah, I'm sure that some people misuse the terminology. But really, it's a blanket statement for somebody who has a master's or a doctorate level of education. So a psychologist is somebody with a doctorate level. A lot of times they're able to do testing and they have a lot of the same education, except they have 2 more years. And then what we have is 2 more years of in the community practice. So we can't really be qualified until we meet that full level of licensure. And then a psychiatrist is someone who can actually prescribe medication, and they are specialized in psychiatric medicine, but they have their MD or DO. Now, and I'm glad you brought up all those different and what differs everything, but you have an interesting practice. You have a lot of different avenues to go. I believe you have a psychiatrist on board. We do, yeah. She's great. She specializes she's an adult psychiatrist specializing in geriatrics and addiction medicine. So she runs the gamut. She's great. She's even written a book. She's fantastic. What else do you have in there that you work with? Okay, well, we have 5 clinicians, and we specialize in a whole bunch of different things. Some of us specialize in adolescents and kids, and some of us specialize in more like geriatrics. And then I'm a trauma therapist. I have the honor of working with first responders nearby and the 9/11 folks. So I'm forever grateful to have that opportunity. But yeah, we have clinicians that can do anything across the board. You mentioned first responders, and I met on Monday with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. It was an amazing week for me. I had met with several different people. I got some great calls, which I'll talk about in a minute. So but great. With the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, I met with Chief Gauger, and he very caring. I mean, they want to help, like I said. When you deal with first responders, when you deal with children, when you deal with veterans, I think you said you deal with veterans too. How does it differ? Do you take the same approach when you talk to these people? No, I mean, everybody's different. The whole thing around being a therapist is kind of going where the client is. So we want to respect what their needs are and what they think that their needs are. And we try to meet that need, but we also are looking for other things, other variables that we see that could be beneficial for them. So they might come in and say, I'm having marital issues. While we'll give some concrete goals for that particular issue, we really are trying to focus on things that are related to the person taking control of their own lives and not depending on someone else for their happiness. So it's all about empowerment.
Okay. And you say that all types of people come. What is a signal? What's a sign that someone should, if their loved one needs help, or if they say they need help, how do they go about finding someone, finding you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, one of the things that I think is a problem is the stereotype of who goes to therapy. Therapy is not what it used to be. Like, it's not somebody laying on the couch and somebody sitting behind them saying, how do you feel about that? So much more, it's a relationship, and our primary goal is to create that relationship. So it's not just people who are mentally ill. And for sure, we have people who have mood disorders or anxiety, but the term mental illness to me feels wrong. I feel like therapy is about mental wellness. It's about mental strengthening. And what we are essentially doing is anybody who walks through our door, I feel like they should be bragging that they're in therapy. I feel like they should be going, I'm getting help and I love, growing and I'm motivated to make a difference in my life. And to me, I think that is the indicator. If you feel stuck or you feel sad a lot, or if you just feel like you're not where you want to be in your life, I think anything along that spectrum would qualify as when you should, maybe reach out to someone. Obviously, we do have people who have, suicidal ideation and have other issues where they're debilitated and they can't get out of bed sometimes, and they might be very weepy and their relationships might be struggling. Like, all of those things are telltale signs. But really, we want people to come in well before they get to that point.
And, you said something that was really interesting to me. You said you don't like the word mental illness. You like mental wellness. That's a powerful term to me. The wellness part of it is a positive thing, and it might have more feeling for people to come back and want to get help. And what's your feeling? What is the difference between those two words to you?
I think that using the word illness, is kind of sad. It's just like a sad thought. Mental illness also kind of puts that label on the person, but the people who walk through my door are not mentally ill. They're going through a tough time. They might be going through a transition in their lives, or divorce, or they're moving to Florida. It's so transient down here. Those big transitions, those life changes are so complicated that they can throw you into a state of depression. But that doesn't mean that they're mentally ill. That means that they're going through a tough time.
Right.
And so that's why I kind of want to take away the thought of mental illness. Like, even someone who has chronic problem like bipolar or depression, still they're coming in to get some mental wellness. I just don't like the label. I think it's disempowering.
And again, I think that goes to the stigma behind it too, which is something I haven't thought about before. With children, I actually got a call this week from, I was up in Washington, and I had a meeting with one of the representatives up there that called me, and they want to get a round table together. They're concerned about the increase of attempts and what's going on in the school systems, which I think is powerful. And I'm excited. We're having a conference call next week, and we want to have a round table discussion. We'll get into that a little bit more. So the politicians do want to help us out, and they are trying. They're very concerned. When it comes to children, sometimes it's difficult to see if a child is depressed. When they hit that 13-year-old, especially with boys, they might be going through puberty. You don't know if they're sleeping a lot because they're going through puberty or because they're depressed. What is a good time for someone to come in to get some help?
Actually, I'm really glad that you asked that question, because frankly, I feel like whether it's because of puberty or because they're depressed, it doesn't matter. The kid's struggling if they're isolating. Where it's coming from doesn't matter as much as, in my opinion, as much as what do we do about it. So it's easy to dismiss, they're just going through puberty, or somebody says that they're suicidal, they're attention seeking. Well, the question for me is, why are they saying that for attention? If that's the assumption, there must be struggling, and they actually have an actual need for attention in order to even say something like that. Right. So I feel like none of it's to be dismissed, and part of our role as parents or people, adults with kids, is to to guide them into adulthood with skills in order to handle things that are harder. So to me, it doesn't matter where it's coming from. It's a matter of how do we get them to learn these skills now when they have guidance,
right,
versus having to stumble as hard in college or when they're on their own.
Is it okay if I chime in?
Yeah.
I was going to say, I really like that. One of my questions for you guys is, it's producer Kat, hi. But something that I've wondered, I'm 27 now, but I, did middle school, elementary school, high school, all that. Do you think that there's a way that for students or kids, if they are sort of uncomfortable to approach maybe their parents with like, hey, I'm struggling, that counselors in schools should be able to also sort of have a structure to see like, oh, if a teacher sees a student is, maybe dealing with stuff, because teachers see things that parents don't.
So I do want to chime in on that, and then I'd love for Jennifer to comment on it. So we did a Safe Talk training at one of the schools, and one of the things that the teachers were very concerned and frustrated about was they didn't know how to approach it. They felt that if they told a parent that their kid was depressed, which we'll go into a second, that they were going to get the parents are going to be, no, my kid's not depressed. How dare you say that to my, about my child? One of the things that we said is the schools do have an avenue to go. The teacher is the front line. The teacher should be getting mental health training on dealing with it.
Yeah.
But there is a counselor in every school. Mm-hmm. And the proper procedure would be for them to see if something's wrong and bring it to the attention of the counselor. The counselor in each school is the one that should be handling that, not the teachers.
I agree. Yeah, it's another set of eyes on the kids in order to alarm people who need to be alarmed. But yeah, the counselors certainly are there to help provide referrals and things like that. But the teachers have so much on their plates already. I mean, they're miracle workers, if you ask me. I can't even believe all that they have on their plate, and to be responsible for that too, it just feels almost unfair. But yeah, to have your eyes on the kids, if a teacher cares, they certainly.
And the teachers are the front line.
Yeah,
they see the kids more than the parents do sometimes. So.
Absolutely, so true. But yeah, they should be aware and educated about what to look for. But the responsibility, I don't think, should fall on them.
So again, we're here with Jennifer Hoskins-Tomko from Clarity Health Solutions. And what I'd like to ask you on this is, when you have a team like we were talking about, mm-hmm. with that team, someone comes in, how do they know? What's a typical session like? Do you see them first? Do they go to the psychiatrist first? Do you guys work together and consult each other with each patient?
Well, there's a lot of points to that. First of all, when somebody calls our office, we're asking them, one of the questions is financial ability. And the reason for that is we don't take insurance at all. So what we've done in order to compensate for people who need help is we have people with varying rates. So if somebody comes in with a major trauma, for instance, that's going to be either me or Scott Allen. Scott Allen has a lot of experience in trauma, especially with kids. If somebody comes in and they're under the age of 18, we're going to do Emily Velez or Scott Allen because they have that experience. I'm not going to take kids. So what we try to do is on the phone call, we do a little bit of a screening process to determine where they would best fit and then go in that direction. If for some reason we're not sure, we're wrong after the client is seen, we just make sure that they get to where they need to be, even if our practice for some reason isn't the right place. Another thing that we have in order to accommodate people who don't have quite as the funds for individuals, we have group therapy. So that helps a lot for people who want the weekly therapy and they appreciate the accountability, but they might not want to be able, might not want to spend as much.
So I'm glad you brought up the group therapy. When my son was going through troubles, or he still is, but when it first started, we had trouble with him finding a good therapist. We actually went to 4 different social workers and psychologists, and we thought there was someone that was perfect for him. The one thing that happened on each one is the psychologist or social worker would say something that would trigger him. Basically, it was that you had to listen to your parents, for instance. You had to do what they say, and then all of a sudden he would turn off. And we had to go through 4 or 5 of them to get the right one. So we found a place that was a group therapy in Massachusetts. It was a great organization, and he benefited from it because he was surrounded by other children. He felt more comfortable. He went up with the group. I would go downstairs and meet with the parents. And this was a time that I was isolated. I didn't want to talk, and I always thought I was the only one that thought this, that my thinking, nobody else could think the way I was processing things. So one day I went to the group therapy, and one of the parents said something, and I thought they just read my mind. So one of the things is a lot of people think they're alone. And when that person said that, I was amazed. How do you know what I'm thinking? Is that something that you find? Is that something that you find that group therapy helps with, that people realize that they're not alone, that there are other people that are thinking the way, and it's a normal way of thinking?
100% is so validating. It's interesting, people say, well, how do I know the difference between if I should be in individual therapy or group therapy? They're completely different situations. You're not going to be able to go quite as deep about your specific issues that are going on in group therapy. It's more like educational and support, and it's so powerful. And that validation of everybody, other people are like me. Individual is completely different because you're going to get a level of depth and a depth of the relationship with your therapist that you can't really get in a group setting. So both of them really in conjunction is best. And really a question, and I appreciate you saying that, because just knowing that we're not alone is really important. And whenever we're struggling, we're in crisis, whether it's our own crisis or someone else's that we're living through, a lot of times we do feel alone. Like it's almost like the depression or the anxiety or the fear or whatever, it's telling us that we're alone and we're the only one.
And one of the interesting things that my son also said to me one time was, the therapist doesn't understand what I'm going through. He hasn't been through this. That was an interesting point to me. My response was, how do you know this? You don't know it because he doesn't talk about his situation. But how do you approach that with people? Is that something that you find common? The people don't think you understand what they're going through?
Actually, I'm fortunate that I don't usually have that issue, because I ask them a bunch of questions so that they can educate me on what they're going through. So I don't make assumptions, and I feel really empathetic that the person sitting in front of me is struggling or wants to get to somewhere. So my whole thing is I just want to help that person get to their goal. However I need to do that is paramount. But I will tell you that my quest to find a good therapist has been a little bit of a struggle too, to be honest. So meaning that when I tried to get help for something that somebody was going through in my life, I actually went through 3 people, and I'm a therapist, a seasoned therapist, and I still had to go through. It's just, you have to find the right fit. So if you're brave enough to make that call, don't give up. Just keep trying to find the right one for you.
So one of the points that you bring out on that is, again, when you're going through you're going through depression, to pick up that phone and try to find that first person to call is the toughest thing to do, because you don't know where to go. So how can people get to you, get to somebody to help them that they feel is right for them?
Certainly you can give us a call at Clarity Health Solutions in Jupiter. We'll guide you, because if somebody's brave enough to pick up the call, like the phone, everybody in the office is trained to not lose that person, meaning that person they can only go through insurance, no problem. So we go on Psychology Today and we look it up, who takes that insurance, what this person's needs are, and then we'll give them a list of 2 or 3 people in the area that we think might be good. Or we have met a lot of therapists in the area, and so somebody that we think is a good fit, we certainly will refer to them. So
that's incredible that you'll actually help other people get to, if you feel that you're not the right fit for them.
Absolutely. I think it's, like I said, it takes so much bravery to pick up that phone. I'm not going to jeopardize that bravery. I'm going to give them more strength, as far as I'm concerned. Like, I think it's important. One of the questions you asked that I didn't get a chance to answer was about when somebody needs medication or not.
Right.
And I think that this is a great question, and I have people ask me that all the time when they call. Do I need to, should I be on medicine or should I see a therapist? And I start asking questions like, how long have you been struggling? Have you tried medication before? What do you think you need? What is your gut telling you? Again, empowerment. And how depressed you are, like the levels of challenges. So if somebody comes in and they've said, yeah, I've been struggling with anxiety and depression for 3 years and I just can't get out of it, I'm gonna say, you know what, I think that you could definitely benefit from both of them, but in this case, medication is going to be a faster route, probably.
Right. And medication is something that I want to have a whole topic on one day, because I know with myself, I know with my son, sometimes it's just, let's increase the medication. Let's increase the medication. And sometimes that's not the right thing to do. Sometimes it is. It's a tough situation to know what's right and what's not.
It's a real balancing act. I've gone through several medications, and it takes a while. I think that's something else people don't realize. It's a constantly changing system, and we can save this for when we make it a real topic, but your brain changes the chemicals it produces, so that means you might not always be able to keep the same dosage or the same medication to help you throughout your time.
Well, and again, somebody that was talking to the other day, it was a real interesting topic, because they were basically saying primary care doctors will prescribe it. And I know that's what happened with my son. They prescribed Prozac. And when I was talking to a psychologist, they said if he has any bit of bipolar in him, Prozac would be the worst medicine for him.
Right.
So that's and again, that's a topic I want to have on the show. One of the other things I do want to bring up, though, is next week I have a special guest on also. I can't wait to have him on. It's Mark Astor from Drug and Alcohol Attorneys. And one of the things, I know you do work with drug and alcohol rehab.
Well, we do more of the maintenance after they've gotten out of treatment, or we do have a lot of people who have gotten addicted to benzos just by taking them for long periods of time. And like you said, maybe the medical doctor has just continued to prescribe. And when you go off of benzos, the withdrawal is excruciating, apparently. I haven't gone through it, fortunately, but we would do more of the tapering and help them with that process. But the person who walks through our door, they're pretty stable at that point. Yeah, so when someone does have a drug and alcohol problem, it relates a lot to mental illness. Huge, and I know you don't like that word, but it does relate. Huge. How do you decipher how to work with them? Do you work on the drug and the substance abuse first? Do you do a combination? How do you decipher which is the right person in your organization to work with them? This is the never-ending question in all of psychology regarding substance abuse. Basically, it's a little bit of a nature versus nurture dilemma, but essentially what I've learned is we have to make sure the person's not using when they come in. If you're using, you're altering your mind, so you can't even process things the way you would if you weren't using. Now, I do have people, again, who are tapering off of things that are a little mind-altering and things like that. So there is some work you can do, but essentially it's about learning the skills and getting to a point of being able to cope with life and understand things in a different way. I mean, my favorite thing that people say when they're in my office is, "Oh, I never thought of it like that." That's my goal. My goal is to help people think about things in a way that they normally wouldn't, and that doesn't matter if they're on substances or not. Yeah. But yeah, we try to not. People are usually in crisis if they're still using. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could talk about. I know. Unfortunately, but I'm so glad you're going to be a co-host with us on several shows. I'm thrilled. We're going to have you definitely back, because there's so much more that you could do to help people. There's so much more that people need to know about you and other ways to get help. So we're definitely going to have you back on as a guest, but you're going to be a co-host. And there are a couple of things I want. Again, this week was an amazing week. I met with the chief for the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Association. Hopefully, we're going to be having them on. On Monday night, I went to the Palm Beach. I was invited. Palm Beach Chefs Association had an event in memory of Chef Anthony Bourdain. It was an amazing event, and again, you don't think about it, but chefs have a stressful job. Anytime there's a stressful job, there's obviously suicidal ideation. There's also mental health issues. So I was a guest speaker there, and it was a great event, and I got some great food out of it too. It was incredible. Sure. And I can't wait for the Washington, D.C., for the representatives to talk more about that. So again, I want to thank you. I do want to mention also that we do have our Palm Beach Out of the Darkness walk for coming up at John Prince Park on September 28th. So you can go to afsp.org/Southeast Florida and sign up, get a team, be a sponsor. Again, I want to thank
our sponsors, Beacon Restoration, Business Services for You, and also if you could just tell us how we get in touch with you, and I really appreciate your sponsorship, Jennifer.
Of course, this is such an important thing to be a part of. I'm so grateful, like you have no idea. And if you want to get in touch with us, we're at clarityhealthfl, like Florida.com, or you can certainly give us a call at 561-781-3333. But yeah, I mean, we're going to do our best to be able to help people get to where they need to be.
Well, again, I really appreciate all the work you do, all the help. Again, if anybody's in crisis, make sure you contact. There are places to go. You got Jennifer's Clarity Health Solutions. The crisis hotline is 1-800-273-8255. You could always call 211. AFSP.org/Southeast Florida has some great resources on there. And also drug and alcohol attorneys, which we'll have on next week, Mark Astor. And he's going to have some great information on how to help your loved ones in need that have substance abuse. And we will see you next week. Listen on Saturdays at 12 o'clock on WJNO. Thank you. Have a great day.
And that's a Real Convo, bringing hope and awareness to those affected by suicide and mental health. Tune in next Saturday at noon to the Real Convo.
Hey, sorry I'm late. I just left psychotherapy.
Oh, wow. You are in psychotherapy? But you seem so put together.
Ha, thanks. But that takes work. So I go to Clarity Health Solutions in Jupiter. Just walking through the door feels like a retreat. When I'm feeling nervous, angry, sad, or overwhelmed, I can always see my psychotherapist for unbiased feedback, healthy support, and skill building.
Clarity Health Solutions in Jupiter has a great atmosphere, caring staff, and seasoned clinicians, and even a psychiatrist. They believe that therapy is an investment for the future, and they cherish being a part of your journey. So, grow with clarity. You can call them at 561-781-3333 or book an appointment at clarityhealthfl.com.
Business Services for You, LLC is a full-service accounting and financial services firm. Their goal is to provide value to each of their clients by identifying their individual needs and goals. Each client, whether an individual or a business, is given the close personal attention they deserve. They hold their services out as fiduciaries, always acting in their client's best interest. Their staff has over 120 years of combined experience in accounting, bookkeeping, payroll, tax, and financial consulting services. Let them show you what they can do for you by contacting them for a free consultation at 561-376-2564 or info at bizsvc4u.com.
Beacon Restoration is a full-service restoration company that specializes in roof tarping, fire, mold, and water remediation. We serve our local communities both during catastrophic events and for everyday needs. We are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for any water or fire damage emergency. We will be by your side throughout the entire process, making an already stressful situation more manageable. We are IICRC certified and work with most insurance carriers. For more information, you can find us on the web at www.beaconrestoration.com or contact us directly at 1-800-454-4572. That's 1-800-454-4572.
The thoughts and opinions expressed are those of the sponsors and don't necessarily reflect those of this station or iHeartMedia.